Checking in. We are live. So, hey, I'm Darren Fink, and this is
Margie Fink.
Margie Fink. We're with Transfiguring Adoption. Transfiguring Adoption is a non-for-profit that seeks to nurture foster by helping foster and adoptive parents. We are going to be doing this is our live Monday caregiver check-in that we do every Monday, and we're actually usually do it every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we are ticking down because in September we are going to be doing it 8 times, so our folks on the West Coast can join in and have fun with us. This is you guys' time to, as people are checking in, I just want to explain this is your time to ask questions about foster care and adoption. This is your time to tell everyone on your advice. This is your time for us, and it's Margie and I's time to mediate and just lead the conversation. So people are getting on Facebook, it looks like. We have people joining in on YouTube. Go ahead, if everyone could watching so that we have more folks that are alerted and we'll have a better conversation on here, that would be fantastic. But hello to everyone checking in. Glad that you are checking in. The way this works is Margie and I will start conversation. But if you guys have any comments or suggestions for what you would like to talk about, we are going to steer toward that instead because, again, this is your Monday Caregiver Check-In. And I am going to let you guys know that I am on YouTube and Facebook. Forth here, we are on our way home. Hey, Betsy, glad that Betsy could join us. Hope you're doing Betsy. Haven't in a while. Hope you're really. Yeah, go ahead and you guys just give a thumbs up, share that you're watching this right now, and we will get started. Is everyone in school now? Does everyone have kids in school, or do some people, are you still starting school right now?
Still waiting.
We are still, so Margie and I have been on the road at some different conventions. And so we have, our kids are in school. They've been, this is their second week, right? They are in school, and so we're pretty excited to get back home and see how they're doing with school. Sounds like everyone in our crew is really excited. How have you guys as kids, if you're in school, if your kids are in school, how have they been doing? I'd love to hear some comments and feedback because we've been talking about that quite a bit, about the topic of school, getting kids ready for school. So I'd love to hear how your kids are doing in school. If you want to give, how about if you don't want to comment, how about give a thumbs up if they're rocking this year at school, and how about give some, I want to give the sad symbol. Give the wow if it's been like an unforeseen, not what you thought it was going to be year. So on Facebook, give the wow if it's been like a whoa year so far, or give the thumbs up if it's been like a whoa, we're rocking it out year. So you guys having fun this year. I want to know about your school years. The other thing I'd love to know about is, what is your after school routine? We've been talking about this quite a bit, but I feel like we can talk about it a little bit more. People have gotten into the school year, so if you have anything about your after school routine and what that looks like, I'm interested actually to see how our kids have been doing with after school routines and different things like that when we get back home. Another thing I wanted to remind everyone about is our archtherapeutic.com. Don't forget that Arc Therapeutic, they make sensory processing tools. Don't forget that they've given us a 20% off coupon, which is Transfig, TRANSFIG, and then the number 20 Use that coupon code. You can get great things like jewelry that your kids can wear. So if they get anxiety, they can like chew on it. They also have pencil toppers and all sorts of other sensory tools that are going to help your kids go through and be successful at school, even if they're feeling a little anxious or a little traumatic. I don't know. That's awesome. But you know, we have some holidays coming up, actually, that Margie and I were looking at. We have Labor Day coming up. And does anyone do anything for Labor Day? Like, is there like a set thing that you do for Labor Day?
There are some people that don't start school until after Labor Day, so that's kind of like their last hurrah of summer.
Is that an Illinois thing? Does Illinois start after, or is that?
It's hit or miss around the country, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because there's a lot of people. I saw a lot of friends the last 2 weeks from all over Illinois posting first day pics, but I know like some of the schools around Chicago might not start till after Labor Day. We were just in Maryland and Virginia, and I know there were people that were saying around there that some of the kids don't start till after Labor Day.
Interesting. So they start really. So I wonder when their summer starts then. That's interesting to me.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, a lot of public pools and things like that close after Labor Day. Like that's kind of like the cutoff.
Right.
So it's kind of like it is a lot of people's last kind of hurrah to go to the public pool or get that last like big cookout event in.
So what? I wonder what people like. I wonder for you guys watching, whether you're watching live or not, what do you guys do for Labor Day then? Do you travel? Like, are people able to travel really far? Like, because it's a 3-day weekend, so you're able to travel far. The other thing coming up is, I think that the next holiday would be Halloween, right? Like, I think that's the next one is Halloween, and that's going to be a big holiday for a lot of, especially smaller children, right? So I'm curious, too, like, so what do you guys do for Labor Day? Because Labor Day, I don't know if there is a set thing for Labor Day. It's like Memorial Day is more like camping and stuff like that, right? Don't a lot of people go camping and outdoor things?
Yeah, it's the same for Labor Day.
Is that the same for Labor Day, or is that
Memorial Day is kind of like, well, I mean, but Memorial Day, you have Memorial Day activities.
It's for more remembering vets, right? So, like, we're not, for Labor Day, we're supposed to be taking a day off from work so we can get, like, housework. Is that what it is?
Just to be off for a day.
To be off for a day? Hey, Wendy's on. She says, hello, guys, it's Wendy. My son is in red that I had been telling you guys about. He has not called. It's been 3 weeks since he's been placed there, and he's still not responding to his family. Sorry, I'm driving in the car, so I'm talking, and the phone is texting for me. So if there's any mistakes, I apologize. That's okay. We're driving, too. Except, luckily, there are 2 of us in the car. So, wow, that's rough.
Yeah, so do they not require some family therapy? You know, every residential is different. I know when our child residential, they family therapy ones, but depending on the situation, that's going to vary.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I pinned that to the top. We're going to go ahead and, hey, Michelle, glad that you're on here. We're going to try to talk about Wendy's situation, give her some encouragement and love here for a little bit. So for those of you just tuning in, hey, Shelby, glad that you're here too. Hey, while everyone's getting on, if you guys wouldn't mind sharing on your Facebook or whatever social media you're on, we're on Instagram and YouTube today. If you wouldn't mind sharing that you're watching so that we can have some more folks chime in, that would be awesome. But Wendy's talking about residential. It's been 3 weeks and he still has not called her or responded to family. Do you guys have any advice for her or maybe some encouragement? That is a rough situation. It's rough to do something like that in the first place and then not to hear anything or to know how the other person's doing is quite trying, I would, So I would love to hear anyone's comments or suggestions for Wendy, even if it's just encouragement, that'd be great. But Margie was just saying that some places require that you do family. Whoops, sorry, Facebook. I'm having issues with my thing here. Hey, Rick. Hey, Ray. Glad you're here, too. Some residential have requirements that you talk and have family therapy or you do things as a family over the phone. So it's not even an option not to do that. So, yeah. Wendy says he is required to do family therapy, but he's not responding to therapy yet. So they have not started any family therapy. They're trying to work with him first. However, we do have a CPS case, a Child Protective Services case, that he said I was okay. So it sounds like if you're on Facebook, you can read the comment yourself. It sounds like he's made the son is making some allegations about being physically abused when there was another side to the story. I guess he was biting on a nephew's finger. He was 20 and wouldn't let go. So the nephew ended up puncturing his bottom lip, so it was bleeding. Okay, so there's a whole long story to it. Wow, that's rough. So that's hard too. I think we talked about this one time. Like, what didn't we talk about the anxiety too of being investigated yourself as a caregiver?
Yeah, I know we have a whole professional panel. I believe it would be probably both archived on our Facebook and also in our YouTube, right? Where
I think
we had a professional panel on what happens when you're investigated and such.
Let me see if I can find.
I know a lot of times that's something that, when we trained the first time around, they kind of said, if this happens. But then when we've trained more recently, they kind of made it, they kind of told you that to expect foster or adopted children or their birth parents or someone else that you're involved with, that it's really, really common to have CPS investigations.
Right.
Against foster and adopted parents.
So I guess what I'm going to punch up here is, what should you do if you, the caregiver, are being investigated? I think because I think, Margie, it is it's a thing. Like it's more often like there now that you will be investigated if you are a foster parent. It's not just a maybe thing anymore. It's something that is going to happen, is what they're saying. And I know we haven't necessarily had to go through that. But we still have had to live in a very much a glass house. And had to.
We've had CPS investigations go on that had to do with things that our children did.
Right. So we've had members of our family have to go through that, but you and I have not had to. So I think that is something.
It was always very much a fear. There were times when we had children living with us that it was a very high risk, and sometimes it's just a matter of just who's in their life listening and what are they saying.
And I think that's one thing that I think, and this isn't going to be 100% foolproof either when I say this, but I think that's why we say you need to get to know your team really well, your team of people that are working with you, like your agent. You need to. We've been talking quite a bit about teachers and what do you tell teachers. I think it's really important to let everyone around this child know what's going on, because then when things do happen,
document.
Yeah, and document. I don't know. It's always been strange to me that something written down will hold more weight than your verbal word, but it does. And so I think I think you just have to be very honest and very upfront with people around your child so that they know what's going on, so that when things like that do happen, they can say, they can read between the lines and they can know what's going on. I don't know if we've shared the story before, but we had one child that to get their way, they would talk about how we would hurt them, but fortunately we were able to tell people around in their life that, hey, this child will say things. And obviously, physically and everything, you can see this child is fine, they're thriving, they're doing well. That was just one of their survival techniques. And so when we had to leave them for a weekend, when we had to travel, this child told some family friends some things which were untrue, and our family friends were able to see right through it and able to see what this child was really trying, like what they're trying to manipulate a situation, and they could quickly just treat the situation with the attention it needed and move on. And then, of course, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, back to Wendy's situation, that really stinks that he's not responding to therapy.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
But that's where it's hard, you know, because you don't know. Sometimes people, as the therapist, are really, really good, and sometimes they're not.
Well, here, Wendy says, so Wendy on Facebook, who we're talking about this whole, like, what do you do when you're being investigated? She says, my whole team does support me, and they know that the story is exaggerated because he has changed it like 5 times as to what happened. It's just the point of him not telling the truth. And then he makes up the story to try to cover himself because he doesn't see, basically, he doesn't want people to know about his behaviors. It's to cover up his own anger, his own physical abuse to myself, and that he's out of, or okay, so it's basically she's using Siri or something, so it's basically to cover up his own stuff, which I think that's a, by the way, I'm so glad that your team knows, like, that makes me happy, like, that your team knows, and it sounds like you're getting support, like that I'm glad they support you. That makes me happy right there. I don't think I'm sad, I hate that you're going through the situation at all, but I'm at least glad you're getting support. So again, we have a lot of people joining in with us. We're talking about what do you do when you're being investigated? Like, what things should you do when a child makes up, whether the allegations are true or false, what do you do when you're being investigated and people are looking into your actions as a foster parent or an adoptive parent even?
And also,
what advice?
Advice in terms of, you've got a child in residential and the child is not responding to therapy and not having contact, and just some of the difficulties related to that.
I think that's, as far as kids making up the stories to cover their own behaviors and so people don't have to see through to them, I think, hey, Rachel just joined us. We love Rachel. I think that's normal, right? Like, I mean, what do you guys all think? I think, not that I'm saying that, I'm not belittling the situation at all, or like not saying that it's hard, but I mean, what is everyone else's experience? I'm just wanting to get insight on that, I guess. I basically I don't think Wendy's alone on this.
No.
At all. Like, I don't think she has, I think this is something that, like, our crew, we can all relate to this. Like, has anyone else had this situation where a child will make up something? I mean, it almost sounds to me like, too, like trying to make up something bigger so that it's like, so trying to get all the adults to go, whoa, let's look at this big event so that my thing seems small. And so we're gonna look at the house on fire rather than the little matchstick that's on fire over here. When really it's the house on fire is a ruse, and we need to pay attention to this little stick match fire,
or vice versa.
So
let's look at the matchstick when the house is on fire.
Right. Yeah, that could be too. Like, let's look at something little and let's get. I think it's all just to get the adults off track and not help them with what they're dealing with. And I mean, gosh, that's got to be hard to do. When I'm on my A game, if I had that situation, Wendy, and I had to, like, that's got to be hard for that kiddo to have to talk about their junk and to finally, like, because it's a wound and it's having to deal with something.
Well, the hard part is, you know, there is no manual to this one therapy is going to work for every child. Every child responds to different therapies differently. And so the child might not be responding to any of the therapies that are being offered at the residential treatment. I mean, we had a child that for years, they would say, this child climbs the walls. And I know I've told this story a million times, but this child climbs the walls during therapy. And we thought it was a metaphor. And no, quite literally, the child was that avoidant of any kind of therapy. I mean, like, it was like the child could smell, like, I'm supposed to deal with stuff here and just, like, run the other way. Figuratively, orally. And so, it took us years to find a therapy that and it ended up being equine therapy. It was the only therapy that really ended up getting through to the child.
Wendy has another question. She says she says she has two other questions. And Rachel, if you're still on here, I'd love Rachel's opinion on this because she is a professional in the industry. And Margie's going to be really good at this one too. Both of these. I'd love you guys' input. Wendy says she has two other questions. The only time her son that's in residential talks to her is when he wants something like clothes, shoes, a basketball, football. The question is, should I take he's more engaged?
I would say with our kids, we always want to make sure that we're meeting needs and to the best of our ability. And, whether some of those things might not be needs per se, whether the child views them as a need is another story. Depending on if it's like and this is just me thinking off the top of my head, so this might not, I don't know the situation, whether you would be able to see him when you dropped it off. Because if you're just dropping it off and there's no contact, but if there is contact, if you're dropping it off and there's contact and there's like the opportunity to somehow make a connection, to somehow some nurture mixed with structure.
Rachel says she would check with the facility about these needs. She has it in quotes. First for compliance.
Some things aren't allowed to be in.
Well, she said she wants to see, like she also says to check in for the actual therapeutic value that it would have. I think that is, I think you would agree with that too, right? Yeah. Check in with the counselor first and whatever they say goes.
If a basketball is something that's going to be of high therapeutic value for him too, like that's, when our son was in residential, there was recreational therapy was something that they did every day. And that was a big part of what they were using in order to help the children. So
I would say too, I would, I agree with Margie that just see if there can be a connection. I can provide you with what you need. I don't know. I don't know the whole situation there, so I don't know. I would say that could be a good opportunity to show that I provide you with what you need. But I also I think it's just
I care about your feelings and I know this is important to you.
Right. And if they won't let him have those things, it's a good opportunity for you to say too, like, this is this stuff because I know it's important. Like emphasizing on, I know this is important to you. And I would love for you to have this stuff. You need, and just saying, you need to talk with your counselor and see if they'll allow you to have it. Because I can't, it's out of my, basically letting them know it's out of your hands now. Because when you're talking residential, things are out of your hands to an extent. We go for visits every 2 weeks. I try and he wants to play. Oh, I guess I try to have engagement and stuff like that. And it remind me too, Wendy, I think this child also has, right?
Well, I think there was a little bit lower on as far as IQ, cognition, there was
too. She said,
disability.
I would not recommend bringing items every time he requested, prevent it from being an expectation, but sporadic tangible rewards could be good with the therapist approval. Firm kindness is the best way of delivering no. So that, I mean, that might be good too. Like if you're doing well in therapy, hey, I know this is important to you. I wanted you to have this type of thing. Oh, okay. And Wendy says too, they have everything he needs at the facility. Like he has everything he needs. He just wants his own stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's almost like I feel like that's almost like sorry, this is the situation you're in, and this is reality. I hate that you're in this, and we're gonna get through it together. But this is your reality right now, and your reality doesn't involve your own basketball right now. But then you can still do it's still a together thing because I said we're gonna get through this together. Like so, and I mean you're visiting him, so it's still a together.
Yeah, there's so much that can be changed just in it's the same answer but being spoken a different way. You know, whether it be like natural consequences or whatnot, just being able to say, just saying, you know, we're coming at it as a team.
And I would
together.
And I would say too, like Wendy, like your family being there every 2 weeks and he not engaging with you and he just wants to play. I don't think I would miss that you're there though, and that's important. Like that's a big thing that you're there, and don't underestimate the power that you're present, because especially with again, I don't remember the whole story. But like, if you're a foster kiddo, I can only imagine, and someone watching this might be a former foster youth, and I'd love for you to share your input on this. But I can only imagine that if you feel like all adults are abandoning you all the time, and then you get put into residential care for a time because you need more help, I can only imagine that if the people in your life are showing up, like that means something. You don't want it to mean something, and you're mad. But it does mean something, right? Like, what do you think? Wendy says, yes, he has a cognitive delay, ADHD, PTSD, and possibly RAD. I think it does sound like he has RAD. If he's exhibiting all that, I would say RAD for sure. That's rough. I mean, it's just, there's no way to candy coat any of it or way to just give. I don't think there are any answers you can give. Like, I mean, there's no manual for any of this. You can't just say, here's what you do. Like, but I think it sounds like you're doing the right things so far. Like, I think being present, like I said, I think that's huge. Just like going there, and even because I think kids, okay, so he's officially adopted, but still, I think even being that more so, like, because it's like, well, when is this person going to cut ties? And so, and residential to them might feel a lot like cutting ties because they're not in the house anymore.
Wendy, is his brother doing any better?
Yeah, for everyone watching, we've talked with this situation before. The brother also is in the home. And was having a rough time with the residential placement. And if you're joining us too, we are talking about what do you do when you have a kiddo in residential care that is not wanting to engage with the family or family therapy. We're also asking the question pinned to the top, and that's what should you do if you're being investigated, that you as the foster or adoptive parent are being investigated, whether allegations are true or not. What advice do you have for that? So it's just like a loop in my head that keeps playing. I'm just like, you're there. Like, yes, I want stuff. I want to go play. Boom, you're there. Like, and I see that. Hey, Joe, glad to see you. But I think presence is just a huge thing because if you're someone that has transition all the time, then that's a constant. That's some sort of constant. And even if it's just like like my mom is going to show up every 2 weeks, that's still a constant. And like when you're in, like we're talking about residential care, again, not everything is up to you anymore. Like you don't, speaking from experience, there's some things that you have to tell your kid that's not up to me anymore. I can't make those decisions anymore. This is like, I know we've had kiddos where we've actually said, let's not go down this path, because when we go down this path, some of it's going to be out of our hands, and we're not going to have a say in it anymore. And they had to learn the hard way that was true. Rachel says maybe bring a card game like Uno that you take with you. We'll give you a structured activity that stays within the boundaries. She said she'd ask counselor about that. I've suggested that for okay. So she'd ask about the Uno game. Wendy said he isn't. I guess the brother that isn't in residential care is in football and busy. He goes to see his brother. He was upset last time because his brother can't stop. Well, I think if he has PTSD and RAD and all those other things, I think that makes sense. Like why he can't stop, and that would be upsetting. Gosh, that's rough. I like that suggestion there, Rachel. Like if you have a kiddo that's in residential, as long as the facility allows it, maybe take cards with you, and they might not want to play it though. Like, I mean, if you're having trouble engaging, they might not want to play it. But if you have if it's a new card game that you bring along with you, sometimes like it might be the shiny new toy that they want to play with, I'm not sure if they'd allow cards or not in a residential center. Yeah. Definitely probably wouldn't let it. They might let it into the family, like the meeting room, but they probably wouldn't let it stay. Like you'd have to take it back with you. It's 2 hours away, and that's what I tell them. It's out of my hands, and that is rough. Yep, we've had that situation too.
Yeah.
It was actually 3 hours away.
Yeah, so it was a 6-hour round trip. Those were long days.
Those were long days. And it is, some of the things are, it just doesn't make, none of it's easy. And,
and we've even had children, that aren't in our care, were never in our care, but were siblings' children in our care who were in residential and going and doing sibling visits. And it was really, really, really rough.
So Wendy said, I guess he wants to play Fortnite, which Wendy's against, and residential allows it. Okay, so back to the card thing. Rachel's talking about the Uno cards. I think, and Wendy said they have cards there. I think I would almost, like if you want to try it as an engagement thing, this isn't at the agents at the residential place. That would be like peeled. As far as the agency allowing things that you don't agree with, we had that situation too, and where there are things.
I've known several parents that have had this situation where just fighting with residential placements that are allowing things that were specific triggers for the child, or by other therapists were specifically ordered not to happen.
And look, here's the hard part with this, that you're going to, and this is not going to be encouraging, but it's the reality, is you're going to have, if you have a child that has to have residential therapy, unfortunately, a lot of the people that are working in the homes are doing, it's a paycheck. They don't necessarily, it's high turnover rate, and they I don't want to say they don't care about the kids, but they're there for,
sometimes they're not well trained.
They're not well trained.
Early in their careers.
They're very early in their careers. It's a high turnover rate. And so you have a lot of young people that are playing Fortnite anyways, and they don't see they don't see what could be wrong with it or how it could be harmful. It's just fun for them, and they're just, like Marty said, early in their career, you're going to fight with that the whole time. And then the counselors might not know, or the counselors might not even be well trained with trauma in foster and adoptive children, and so they're going to allow it. And unfortunately, that's gonna be something that you're gonna have to fight with and deal with. And that's a struggle. Gosh.
I know someone recently who was going up the chain, and there are sometimes when you just have to do that. If there's someone higher up that you can go to and say, "Hey, look, this is not a beneficial activity for this child. This is why." And likely, if it's not a beneficial activity for your child that's not beneficial for other children in the,
No.
I mean, we had safety plans where therapists said they cannot watch certain ratings of movies. And it wasn't just like certain content, basically that, if a certain type of content was the issue, a different type of content can actually cause the same physiological responses and arouse, whether it's, so the child has issues with sexual content, but if there's violence, it causes the same physical arousal and can lead to the same behaviors and triggers, even though it's a different type of content. And I don't think, a lot of times people aren't well aware of those things. And, if it's triggering one child, it's likely triggering other children because they're likely there for some of the same reasons.
One thing that Wendy also says that they played one game of Uno and then he was done. I wouldn't take that as a discouragement. I know you probably want more, but I would take that as an encouragement. Like, that's a win for you that he was able even to do that. Yeah, she said with the Fortnite, the worker was playing it while they were there. Yeah, you're gonna have a fight with that. If you don't like it, it's your child. Say something to say.
Just don't do it in front of the child. I mean, that's kind of
right.
One thing. Like,
don't do it in front of them,
because we never want to take someone else's authority in front of a child, because it's equally as bad if they do it to us. Let me tell you, Mama Bear will come out if you strip away my authority in front of the child.
True story.
True story. As a teacher too, same thing. Like,
yeah,
back and forth between teachers and parents. You do not take away authority from the other caregiver.
No, and I would almost just go ahead, and if it seems like they're young in their career, I would automatically go to the supervisor, not upset, but just diplomatically say, hey, have you ever played the game Fortnite? I'm not sure that that's conducive for my son's therapy or for his condition.
Some education on some of the risks associated.
Right, because it might be something where the younger folks that are caring for the kids and working with them, they all love playing games and they know everything about the games and they can connect with the kids. But the supervisors might not be gamers, and so they have no clue about Fortnite. I don't have any idea about Fortnite. I mean, I've heard hearsay about it. But, so, like, if I was in the situation, I would actually appreciate someone coming up to me and telling me stuff that, like, why kids in therapy shouldn't be playing it. But I wouldn't come at them at first. Oh, she got shot down. Ouch. Then that's when you start climbing up the hierarchy of different things. And if that doesn't work, I would go to a therapist that was seeing him originally and explain the situation. And then I mean, you do what you got to do. You climb the ladder until someone listens. And unfortunately, that might be tiresome. Hey, Paige. That might be really tiresome, though. Sorry about that, Wendy. We've had to deal with that also. It can be tiring, but you do have to. They're still your kids, and you're still going to have to fight for them. Just because they're finally getting supposed treatment that they need doesn't mean you're not going to have to stop fighting. Right. She got told that they were trying to build a relationship and become friends, build trust with them. Well, there are other things you can do for that, though. I would give them other suggestions if they can't think of anything besides Fortnite. They're definitely Rachel's on here, and I think she works in the industry.
She actually works with residential
and
adoption and foster care.
I think I'm not going to speak for her, but I think I know Rachel well enough that she would agree that there are other things besides Fortnite that you can do to play. There are other games even you can play besides Fortnite to build a relationship. So I would definitely climb that hierarchy, and if one person won't listen, I would explain to them too why you don't think it's conducive for their treatment. It goes against their treatment. It's not anything to do with building trust and relationship. There are so many options that you can do to build. Come on now, we didn't have Xbox and Wii and everything else back in the day. We can go back to that. Uno requires no thing like that, and I love video games. And Rachel, I wanted to go back and say, she also did say that, Wendy, to back that up, that's an absolute win that you had. Uno, that you played Uno, one game of Uno. That's awesome. Don't take that as a win. I think as foster and adoptive parents, we want to see the end game, and this is such a slow journey, right? Like, wouldn't you say? Like,
Yeah.
the whole thing is such a slow journey, and you don't see that much progress with things. Take the little things as a win. Take it as a win. And I mean, hear other people saying that it's a win, and just realize that that's awesome if you played a game of Uno. A kid that probably wouldn't play a game of Uno with someone else that might be his adoptive mom or foster mom.
If we can ever get off the road and I can finish the A to Z therapeutic parenting book by Sarah Naish, I know some of the intro chapters were talking about the very thing in terms of the little wins and the fact that you will bang your head against the wall for a decade with behaviors and stuff a lot of times before you really see, it's little progress, and then you kind of look back after a decade and go, wow, this is where we came from. And we're about a decade in, so we're seeing a couple of our kids, so we're seeing that we're getting to that point where
and other people are seeing it too, which is encouraging, because other people are like talking about how, especially one child in particular has matured a lot, and but it's taken over 10 years to get there. So definitely, for sure. Rachel is saying, so there was one part in it, if you're just joining in with us. And by the way, if everyone watching, just give your comments, give your advice. This is your time. Margie and I had things we were going to talk about right now, but when people jump in and they have their own things they need to talk about, this is your time. So we're going to talk about what you want to talk about. So please give advice, make comments, ask questions. Again, Wendy's having concerns with how they're building relationship at the residential home that her son is in right now. They're playing Fortnite. Rachel says, who is also in the foster and adoptive industry, says that she's a gamer and there are plenty of games that are more therapeutic. She'd recommend Minecraft or Wii Sports over any of the others for trauma-informed care. Wii Sports, definitely, because you're doing things together, and you're talking with each other a lot more than I would imagine Fortnite. I think if I'm remembering Fortnite and what it's supposed to be, you're so in the game that you're probably not talking with each other as much. And Rachel also says she's not as familiar with Fortnite, but bottom line is you're the parent and you have a voice for appropriate media. I'd recommend going up the food chain. I would too. So Wendy says this is residential for foster kiddos only, so no one is fighting for those kids. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, we saw that too when we were the adoptive parents of a child in residential, and there were several kids. There were a lot of kids there who were either foster, or they were just in state's custody, or they were in the custody of a relative, whether that be a grandparent, aunt, uncle, or even a parent who was really not involved. Like, I don't know how many times the therapist was like, you guys are involved and you guys are actually showing up for therapy, and
they were surprised by that.
Answering phone calls. And just to know that there's this huge residential therapy center, and we are one of the few parents who are actually involved and fighting for their kids and actually a part of the process, was so disheartening.
I would say, like I said, I don't have anything encouraging per se, but you are going to have to fight. Like, it's going to be a fight. Bigger picture, the cool thing is you're fighting, and it's going to be a small ripple to you, but it's going to impact other kids. If you're fighting for your child with Fortnite or whatever, it's going to help other kids' lives too. And I know.
Great analogy from the Sarah Naish book that I was talking about. Trauma lake. So you envision a lake, and every intervention or every point of nurture or connection or everything that you're doing, you're throwing a pebble into trauma lake. So for years, you're throwing these pebbles in and you don't see it. Like there's a little ripple for a second and then it's gone. There's no evidence of that pebble. But then a decade down, this mountain starts to break the surface. And I sometimes pictures speak, a lot better than words. And I think that mind picture of being able to see our kids' trauma as a lake, and every little thing we do as a pebble that we throw in and makes a little ripple, and eventually that breaks the surface and starts to make a real impact.
Definitely, for sure. Okay, we are actually running out of time here, so I am going to have to wrap us up here, unfortunately. One last comment is Wendy says that she's out in the country and he's in the inner cities of Flint, Michigan. It's rough. It's rough. Hey, keep the conversation going, you guys. Just because we have to stop the live broadcast doesn't mean people can't keep commenting and messaging. We are always checking the threads on these to make sure that we're answering everyone's questions, or we can get professionals or someone on here that can help. You can also email us at info@transfiguringadoption.com. We'd be glad to answer your questions. Hey, and while we're talking about getting us questions and input, love it if you guys could head over to transfiguringadoption.com. Over on the right side, there is a button that's set toward the bottom that says, "How are we doing?" I would love it if anyone watching this could fill that out. It helps us as we're trying to get businesses and donors in your area to help support us so we can keep doing things like this. It helps us to secure donations so that we can keep going and keep the lights on, basically. And I don't mean in our house, I mean on Transfiguring Adoption. I was being figurative. If you didn't get that, I was being figurative. Because just so you know, everyone, Margie is our executive director, and everyone from the top on down is volunteer staffed at the moment. So please give your input, encourage other people to give us input about how we're doing, not only so we can make better services, but also so that we can secure donations and get resources out to people. In November, I wanted to let everyone know that we are going to have some special projects coming up for foster and adoptive parents. And we are going to be teaming up with Percy Weasley. That's Chris Rankin from the Harry Potter films. He's going to be working on some projects with us, so stay tuned for those. Those are going to be coming out announced in probably October. And other than that, we are going to be changing time again. September, we're going to be changing to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time instead of our regular 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to give people a little bit more time with school and a little bit more time on the West Coast for people to join us. So September, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please spread the word.
The first Monday of September is Labor Day, and we're going to take that day off.
Labor Day, we are taking off. So please spread the word. Help us to make this grow, because we appreciate all of you, and talking about all this stuff is helping other people. I know it is, because it helps me to talk about this stuff, and I feel like it helps make me a better parent. So very cool. You guys are amazing. Wendy and everyone else that's a caregiver out there, you are doing more good today than you realize you are. For seriously, you are. You're amazing. Thank you for taking on what you're doing. Most people would not trade places with you in your situation, and you're in your situation. You're fighting for kids. You're doing it. Thank you so much. Thank you to people like Rachel, who are professionals in the industry, and other people that are watching that want to make a difference and just want to make sure that foster and adoptive parents have the support that they need. Thank you so much, everyone. We're heading home. We are finally going to be back in Orlando, Florida.
For the first time since 4 a.m.-ish on August 8th.
Next caregiver check-in, we'll be back in our home office and not from the road. So until then, take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for who you are. We hope we're helping to nurture and grow your foster or adoptive family.
Interesting noise.
It was an interesting noise. Okay, YouTube, it's been great.